How do you write a personal statement in 2024? In this video, I'm gonna walk you through 3 things that haven't changed, 3 things that have changed, and 3 tips you can use if you're writing your own personal statement. First of all, let's start with what hasn't changed. So number 1, colleges are still looking to know through your personal statement, what are the skills, qualities, values, and interests that you're bringing with you to a college campus. Number 2, it's important to remember that uncommon topics, which is to say topics other than common extracurricular activities and sports and clubs, are probably more likely to help you stand out in the process. So it's really important to brainstorm more uncommon topics. More on that in just a little bit. Number 3, it's important to remember that your personal statement isn't the be-all end-all. It's important to zoom back and remember that it's just one part of your overall application. So if you're coming to college as a guy for help on your personal statement, remember your activities list matters, your additional information section matters, your recommendation letters matter, and if a college asks for it, your supplemental essays matter. So these are all pieces that help create the larger picture of who you are. Now, what actually has changed? Well, a few shifts. Number 1, colleges really care about something called your positive character attributes. How do we know this? Because based on the most recent State of College Admission report, there's a section called Factors That Colleges Deem Important. Now, I just did a whole 9-part podcast series on this entire report, but what I learned in talking with a few different college admission reps is that after grades and rigor, in other words, how well you do in your classes and are those classes difficult, colleges care about your positive character attributes, which is really vague, so let me define. Positive character attributes are things like, for example, intellectual curiosity, collaboration, consistent engagement, and these are the things that colleges are looking for. Now, when I asked a couple college admission officers, how do these come through in your application? They said, well, in things like the essays and the recommendation letters, etc. But these are the things that colleges are really paying attention to. Now, this jumped up to number 2 on the list after not having been listed ever. Is it that colleges didn't care about positive character attributes before? No, it's just that colleges are coming forward and saying, yes, these things like character, really, really matter. Okay, number 2, a big thing that happened is ChatGPT came out. And a lot of people have been asking me, what do you think about ChatGPT? Well, let me tell you first what I think college admission officers think, because I've talked with more than 50 of them. And their responses range from like, I have no idea, to like, we can pretty much tell you're using ChatGPT. So on a recent webinar, I talked with Hillary Dickman from Colorado College and Carlos Vega from MIT, and there was a range of responses from what they had to say. I'll link below it in the comments, but both of them are pretty much like, yeah, don't copy and paste ChatGPT. And the big reason for that is that there's so many specifics that are particular to you that ChatGPT just isn't going to have information about. And so getting into your weirdnesses, your quirks, and the information that only you can bring is so important. Now, obviously I'm biased because I think there's a whole other value to thinking about and reflecting and writing about your own life. But I just want to caution you because other college admission reps have said, yeah, we've rescinded some applications based on ChatGPT use, that besides the fact that you might get caught, there's an integrity issue here, I think. And if you're presenting something as your original work, I know, soapbox moment, make sure it is actually your original work. Number 3, a big thing that happened was the Supreme Court decision to ban race-conscious admission. So what does this mean? Well, essentially the Supreme Court said colleges are not allowed to use race as a standalone factor in admission decisions. If a student is going to talk about race, they have to connect it to qualities of character, which is to say, skills, qualities, values, and interests that you will contribute to a college campus. So what does this mean for students? Well, if you're a student of color and you're watching this, first of all, I've got a whole guide that walks you through how to think about this and a particular application where a student did write about race and did connect it to qualities of character. But if you're thinking about this, ask yourself the question, has race impacted who I am? And if so, because race isn't going to come through anywhere else in your application, it could be interesting to weave it in some places in your application. And that guide that I mentioned, including a podcast, will show you how to do that. All right, so now some quick tips. First of all, I want to encourage you to brainstorm more uncommon topics. And I mentioned this earlier, but I mean, rather than write about marching band or football or the thing that anybody else is going to write about, I want you to consider, for example, brainstorming a list of identities. Like, what are some different ways that you identify? And then write a paragraph on how each of these identities manifests in your life. Who are you at home? Who are you on the field? Who are you when it comes to the classroom? Another thing you could do is brainstorm what are the skills, or as I like to say, superpowers that you've developed in your life, and where do those manifest? A third one could be, where are the places where you find yourself in your zone, in your flow? Time just sort of like goes away. What are those different things? Write a paragraph on each of those. Because that simple brainstorm, or those simple brainstorming exercises, could lead you to a whole lot of new and interesting content. And what you'll need to do is obviously find a connective theme or thread to weave them together. But that's gonna, in many cases, be much more interesting than that soccer essay or that essay on debate. Second tip, raise a question at the start of your personal statement. What do I mean? Well, here's some examples from students that I recently worked with or that my team worked with. Number one, there is nothing worse than waking up and realizing you were meant to be a pirate. Number two, I've been dabbling in the dark arts for 5 years. Number three, you have 60 minutes to disarm the missiles. Good luck. The fate of the world is in my hands. I love these openings because what they're doing is they're raising a question in our minds like, what do you mean by a pirate? What do you mean by dark arts? And why is the fate of the world in your hands? And they aren't answering those questions until the end of the essay. So they're keeping us engaged, just like a great movie will do. Number three, I want to encourage you to make uncommon connections, which is to say, based on your topic, whatever it is, brainstorm for like a minute or two. What are the things that someone might say about that topic? So let's say, for example, you do go with an extracurricular activity like debate. What's everybody going to write about if they're writing a debate essay? They're going to write about finding your voice, or they're going to write about overcoming, shyness, or becoming more confident. So scratch those from your mind, and then you can use, I'll link to this below, there's a values list where you can look at values and go, okay, what are some uncommon values that you may not connect to debate? So for example, maybe you might write about how debate has taught you about healthy boundaries, or maybe debate has taught you about the environment in an interesting way. And if you just spend a few minutes using, essentially uncommon thinking to think outside the box and go, how do I create interesting other connections? They're going to make for much more interesting and dynamic paragraphs that are actually going to surprise the reader. And you can do this in like 10, 15 minutes. I'll link below to my free guide to the personal statement that has that values list inside it. Quick side note, if you're looking for support one-on-one through your college essay and application process, I'll put a link below. My team and I work with students every year, and we'd love to support you. And if you're watching this video and you're like, but I'm a low-income student, I can't afford one-on-one help, don't worry, we've got spots for you too. Below, I'll link to our Matchlighters program. All right, if that was all too much to remember, here's a screenshot. So you can just screenshot this and take it wherever you go. And that's what I got. Much love. See you soon.